We just wanted a moment together, but when his parents walked in, the truth couldn't hide any longer. I thought the scariest thing would be coming out. Turns out, the scariest thing was getting caught before we were ready. Julian's breath still lingered in the air between us, warm and sweet from the wine we weren't even old enough to drink. The room was small, his parents' guest living room, with old beige walls and one of those cheesy wooden signs that said "Live, Laugh, Love" hanging crookedly above the TV. And for a moment, we forgot where we were. We'd kissed before, in the back seat of his car, in the alley behind my apartment, on a deserted stretch of beach after midnight. But never inside this house. Never where the walls had ears and the floorboards creaked like tattletales. Julian's hand slid behind my neck and pulled me closer. I could still feel the tremor in his fingers, the hesitation that never fully left no matter how many times he whispered, "I want this." He was trying. God, he was trying so hard to live a truth that was never safe in his world. We'd only had seconds. Maybe not even that. A kiss. A smile. The sigh of relief when we thought the house was empty. Then. Click. The front door. Julian froze, his eyes snapping toward the hallway. His breath hitched so sharply I felt it like a slap. Then the voice. His father's voice. "Julian. You home?" Panic has a sound. It's silence, sudden and loud. It's two boys springing apart like magnets flipped the wrong way. It's my heart racing not from love, but survival. I remember the look on Julian's face before his parents came into view, caught between the man he wanted to be and the boy they still thought he was. I wanted to reach for him, to stand beside him. But all I could do was sit, stunned, as the door creaked wider. And there they were. His mom's smile was the first thing to fall. His dad's expression didn't change at first, maybe it took an extra second to process. To see the flushed faces, the half-empty wine glasses, the way our knees had been touching before we tore apart. Then his mouth hardened into a line. "Julian," he said, like the word was bitter. "What's going on here?" Julian opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I didn't know what to say either. Should I stand? Should I leave? Should I lie? But the silence stretched long enough that it turned into something worse: assumption. "Is this your friend?" his mother asked, her voice trembling just enough. Julian finally said something. Not what I expected. Not what I wanted. But something. "Yeah," he said. "This is Eli. We go to school together." And in that moment, I hated him. Hated him for reducing me to a classmate. Hated him for pretending we were nothing. But more than that, I hated myself for expecting him to be brave when he wasn't ready. His dad let out a small, humorless chuckle. "Right. A friend. Sure. Dad. You think we're stupid?" he barked. "You bring someone into my house, sneak around behind our backs, and think you can lie to my face?" Julian flinched. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" His father's voice rose. "You two were kissing. Don't lie." His mom had sat down on the armrest of the couch, staring at her hands like she didn't recognize them. I couldn't read her face. Grief? Disgust? Worry? All of it. Julian looked at me. Just for a second. And in his eyes, I saw the truth. He wasn't ashamed of me. He was afraid of losing them. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean for it to come out like this." His father stood up straighter. "Come out. So you are." Julian didn't answer. He didn't need to. I did something stupid then. I stood up. I wasn't even thinking, just reacting. I reached for Julian's hand again, gently, like it was a peace offering. "Mr. and Mrs. Blake," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm not trying to disrespect your home. I care about your son. He's brave. He's kind. And I love him. His mom inhaled sharply. His dad clenched his jaw. Julian looked like he might throw up. You need to leave, his dad said to me. Now. I wanted to fight. To shout. To say something that would shake the foundation of that house. But Julian's eyes were begging. Not for me to fight, for me to go. So I did. Outside, the air was cool. My chest was burning. My hands shaking. I sat in my car for a long time. Too long. Then my phone buzzed. Julian, I'm sorry. Don't hate me. Please. I didn't reply. Not then. That night, I walked home under a sky that felt like it was watching me. I replayed everything: his voice, his silence, the look in his eyes as the door opened. The truth was never the problem. The problem was when the truth showed up uninvited. And I couldn't stop wondering. What now? The days that followed blurred together. I didn't go to class. I didn't respond to Julian's texts. I didn't answer when he called, even though every time my phone lit up with his name, I wanted to. God, I wanted to. I kept thinking, he lied. He picked silence over me. But then again. Wasn't I the one who got to leave? He had to stay. It was the fourth day when I finally opened my door to find him standing there. Hair messy. Hoodie zipped up over a shirt I recognized, the one I gave him the night he first told me he liked boys. His eyes were red-rimmed, like he hadn't slept. And when he saw me, he didn't say a word. Just stood there. What do you want, Julian? I asked, my voice like ice. I needed to see you, he whispered. You saw me. Now go. He flinched, but didn't move. Please, Eli. Just talk to me. Talk to you? You mean like how you talk to your parents? Pretending I was just some guy from school. You didn't even try to stand up for us. I know, he said quickly, stepping forward. I panicked. I froze. Everything I rehearsed in my head, it was gone. I was so scared. And what do you think I felt? I snapped. You weren't the only one in that room, Julian. You think I haven't been afraid every time I kissed you? Every time we held hands in my car, wondering if someone would see. But I still showed up for you. He didn't argue. Just stood there and took it. And I hated that I could see his pain. They're not talking to me, he said quietly. They told me to take a few days away. That I needed to think about my choices. They're acting like this is something I can just switch off. You can't, I said. And you know that. He nodded, voice cracking. I've known since I was 12. But they've always made it clear being gay isn't something they'll ever accept. That made me pause. I'd known his parents were strict. Church every Sunday, Republican voting, American flag on the porch strict. But hearing it like this, the weight in his voice, it hit different. So what now? I asked. I don't know, he admitted. But I don't want to lose you. Please, Eli. I know I messed up, but I swear I want this. I want you. Silence stretched between us again. Then I stepped aside and let him in. We sat on my bed, legs crossed, facing each other like two kids playing truth or dare. Julian told me more than I'd ever heard him say before. About how his dad once told a neighbor their son's phase would pass after college. How his mom cried during a sermon about family values. How he felt like a stranger in his own home every time he thought about his future and couldn't picture it with a woman. I wanted to be normal, he said. I really did. For them. For me. But every time I imagined a wedding, I only ever saw you at the end of the aisle. I looked at him, and I swear the hurt in his voice made me forget my own. I reached out. This time, he didn't flinch. I took his hand and squeezed. I don't care how long it takes, he said. I'll fight for you now. I promise. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't have to. We laid in bed, fully clothed, facing each other under the yellow glow of the street lamp outside. I traced the scar on his chin from when he fell off a bike in 8th grade. He ran his fingers through my curls like he used to when we were both too afraid to say, "boyfriend," out loud. And somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m., I asked him, what if they never come around? He didn't answer right away. Then we build something they can't tear down. The next week was a war zone. Not between us but between Julian and his parents. They called. Cried. Demanded. Begged. Threatened to stop paying his tuition if he didn't come home and talk things through. Julian didn't fold. Not this time. They can't buy my silence anymore, he told me. And yet I could see it hurting him. Every voicemail. Every, "I raised you better than this." Every, "You've been brainwashed." The weight of trying to be a good son while being your true self, it was unbearable. I held him through it all. But even love has limits. And reality doesn't wait for heartbreak to heal. We still had school. Finals. Rent. And the world outside didn't exactly pause because two boys were in love and in pain. Julian moved in with me temporarily. 1 bag, 2 textbooks, and the photo of us from Pride, the only one he ever printed. We didn't have a plan. We barely had space. But we had each other. Some nights we laughed, cooking burnt spaghetti or racing to beat each other at Mario Kart. Other nights we cried. I watched him read old texts from his mom, his thumb hovering over the delete button. Sometimes he'd press it. Sometimes not. One morning, I woke to find him standing by the window, staring out like the world had turned upside down. "They're never gonna look at me the same way again," he said. "No," I agreed, wrapping my arms around him from behind. "But that doesn't mean you're broken." He leaned into me. "You make me feel whole." It wasn't perfect. We fought. About stupid things, like laundry and grocery lists. About big things, like whether we should go public on social media. Julian was still afraid his extended family would see. That it would make things worse. Worse than being kicked out. I asked one night. "Yes," he said. "Because there's always more to lose." I understood, but it still stung. I'd been out since I was 16. My parents had been surprised, maybe disappointed, but they never shut the door on me. Julian didn't get that. He envied it. And I envied that he still held on to hope. Then came the letter. A real, physical envelope slipped under the door. Addressed to Julian. From his mom. He opened it slowly. Read it twice before handing it to me. It wasn't hateful. It wasn't accepting either. It said she missed him. That she didn't understand, but wanted to. That she loved her son even if she couldn't quite understand the path he was choosing. She called it a path, Julian murmured. Like it's a phase. Like I'll walk back the other way if I get tired. I read the letter again. It's not everything. But maybe it's something. He nodded, biting his lip. Do you think there's a chance? I looked at him, really looked. I think there's always a chance. But you can't wait forever for them to catch up. You have to live. That weekend, Julian posted the photo from Pride. Caption, "This is me. This is love." It wasn't dramatic. It didn't go viral. But for him, it was everything. His inbox exploded. Some support. Some silence. Some backlash. But the most important reply came 2 days later. Dad. I don't understand it. I may never. But I shouldn't have kicked you out. That was wrong. Julian stared at the screen for a long time. Then put the phone down and crawled into bed beside me. He didn't say he's okay with it, he murmured. No, I said. But he said sorry. That's a start. We didn't have a fairy tale. We didn't get immediate forgiveness. The world didn't suddenly change. But something did shift inside Julian, and between us. We started looking for apartments together. Somewhere small. Ours. He re-enrolled for the next semester. Got a part-time job. Started therapy. We made a list of dreams. Go to New York together. See a Broadway show. Visit his grandmother in Georgia. Hold hands in public without looking over our shoulders. Think we'll do it all, he asked, one night as we sat on the roof. Maybe not all at once, I said. But yeah. We will. He leaned his head on my shoulder. I used to think loving you meant I'd lose everything else. And now? Now I think maybe you're the thing I never deserved but always needed. The semester passed in quiet resilience. Julian and I built a rhythm. Coffee at 8, class at 9, work at 4. We lived in a small studio apartment with noisy pipes and a landlord who ignored texts, but it was ours. The walls held our laughter, our late-night arguments, our makeups under mismatched blankets. No one told us to sit apart. No one flinched when we reached for each other's hands. For the first time, we weren't hiding, just surviving. Sometimes, that felt like victory. But even victories come with shadows. Julian's dad still hadn't said the word gay. His mom called sometimes, always hesitating before asking about your friend. They were trying, in their own way. But it was a slow, painful crawl towards something that still wasn't quite acceptance. Julian didn't push. I could tell he wanted to. I could also tell he was afraid that pushing would shatter the fragile bridge they were barely building. I stayed quiet, supportive. But the silence began to gnaw at me. Do you ever think they'll come around? I asked one night, my voice low against his shoulder. Julian didn't answer right away. He traced circles on my wrist with his thumb, thoughtful. I think they want to, he said finally. But wanting and doing are different. That hurt more than I expected. In March, he was invited back home for Easter. Not me. Just him. They said it's a family thing, Julian told me, not meeting my eyes. Your family, I said. Or are they pretending I don't exist again? He flinched. It's not that simple, Eli. No, I said, pushing away from the table. It's exactly that simple. We didn't speak for hours after that. I sat on the fire escape, watching the sunset bleed across the buildings, trying not to cry. I thought I was past this part, the exclusion, the quiet rejection, the subtle rewriting of the truth. But it was still here. Just in prettier wrapping. When Julian finally joined me, his eyes were glassy. I want you there, he whispered. But if I show up with you now, I might lose them again. I thought you already did. He exhaled slowly. Not entirely. Not yet. And maybe I'm stupid, but I still want to believe they can be better. You think I'm in the way of that? No, he said firmly. You're the reason I want them to be better. He went home that weekend alone. I waited for texts. He sent only 3. Friday night, it's weird. Quiet. They made your favorite pasta. I think it was a peace offering. Saturday, Dad and I talked. Nothing deep. But he asked if I'm safe. That's something, right? Sunday evening, heading back soon. Can't wait to see you. When he walked through the door, I didn't speak. Just wrapped my arms around him and buried my face in his neck. He held me tighter than he ever had before. "They're not there yet," he whispered. "But I think they want to know you. Eventually." That word again, eventually. I didn't want to be someone's secret until their timeline felt comfortable. But I didn't say that. Not yet. 2 weeks later, the timeline collapsed. Julian got a call while we were folding laundry. I saw the way his face paled, the way the color drained from his knuckles as he gripped the phone tighter. "What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just mouthed one word. "Hospital." His father had collapsed at work. Stroke. Sudden. Severe. Julian dropped everything. We were on the road in 15 minutes. I drove. He didn't speak the entire way, staring out the window with the hollow look of someone watching their world fracture. When we got to the hospital, his mother was in the waiting room, pale and frantic. She didn't hug Julian, just gripped his arm like it was the last stable thing in her life. "He's still unconscious," she said. "They're not sure what kind of damage." She trailed off, eyes flicking to me. Her lips pressed into a tight line. "Hi, Mrs. Blake," I said softly. She didn't respond. Not with words. Just a small nod, one that could have meant hello or why are you here. I stayed back while Julian followed her down the hall. For the first time in weeks, I felt like a stranger again. Hours passed. I wandered the halls, bought cheap coffee, stared at a vending machine I didn't want anything from. At one point, I found a small chapel tucked between the ICU and a janitor's closet. I sat there, hands clasped, unsure if I was praying or just pretending to. I wasn't religious. But in that moment, I needed something, anything to hold on to. That's when she found me. Mrs. Blake stood in the doorway of the chapel, her eyes softer than they'd been in months. "I didn't know where you went," she said. I didn't want to intrude. She walked in slowly, heels quiet on the worn carpet. She sat beside me, folding her hands in her lap. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Neither do I." She looked at me, then really looked. And I saw it. Not hate. Not even disapproval. Just fear. "I was raised to believe certain things," she said. "But sitting there today, watching a machine breathe for my husband. It made me realize I might not have time to get everything right. But I don't want to get everything wrong either." I swallowed. "Julian's a good man. He loves you." She nodded. "And he loves you." I couldn't breathe. She reached over, gently touched my hand. "Thank you," she said. "For being there. For not giving up on him." When Julian came back to the chapel an hour later, he found us sitting side by side. He blinked. "What?" His mom stood. Walked over. And for the first time in a long time, she pulled him into a hug. "You don't have to hide anymore," she whispered into his hair. "Not from me." Julian's father recovered slowly. It was a long road: speech therapy, physical rehab, medications. But he was alive. Changed. Fragile. Human. I met him again in June. He didn't say much. Just looked at me, then looked at Julian, and gave a small nod. He didn't hug. Didn't smile. But when I reached out my hand, he took it. And for now, that was enough. The summer was a turning point. We got a better apartment. Julian got a scholarship. I got a promotion at work. And his parents visited together. No shouting. No silence. His dad didn't say much. But he brought Julian's favorite cake. His mom hugged me at the door. Progress. Real. Messy. Slow. But real. And then came August. Our anniversary. 1 year since that kiss. 1 year since the truth spilled out in a living room too small for lies. 1 year since we were caught and freed. Julian planned a surprise picnic in the park. Blanket. Wine. Old Polaroids. A speaker playing our first dance song from the Pride after-party. Halfway through, he pulled out a small box. My breath caught. You're not. He laughed. No, no. Not yet. But maybe one day. Inside the box was a silver ring. Not a wedding ring, just a promise. On the inside was engraved, "You make me brave." I looked up. Tears burned. Julian took my hand. This year almost broke me, he said. But you never did. You held me together. I just loved you, I whispered. That's exactly what saved me. We stayed in the park until the sky went dark and the streetlights blinked awake. He leaned against me. I leaned into him. Somewhere nearby, someone shouted a slur. We didn't flinch. We stayed right where we were. Because love doesn't retreat anymore. Fall came fast, carrying the smell of change on its breath. Julian and I were stronger than ever. Not perfect, never that, but more honest, more present. We laughed more. We argued less. And when we did fight, we didn't leave the room. We stayed. We listened. We healed. He started seeing a counselor at the university. Not because he was broken, but because he wanted to understand the wounds he'd hidden for so long. I saw him become more than just someone fighting to survive. He was beginning to thrive. One Sunday morning, while I made us pancakes and badly sang along to Mariah Carey, Julian came out of the bedroom holding an envelope. My mom sent this, he said, waving it gently. She wants us to come for Thanksgiving. I dropped the spatula. With both of us? I asked. He nodded. She said it's time the family met you. Properly. My stomach flipped. What about your dad? Julian shrugged, uncertain. She said he agreed. That's all I've got. I guess we'll find out. We arrived at the Blake house the night before Thanksgiving. The porch light was on. A small rainbow sticker now lived in the corner of the window by the door. My chest tightened at the sight of it. His mom greeted us with a nervous smile. She hugged Julian. Then after a moment of awkward pause she hugged me, too. I'm glad you're here, Eli, she said. Thank you for coming. Inside, the house hadn't changed much. Same beige walls. Same crooked, live, laugh, love sign. But there was something different in the air now. Not full acceptance but openness. The door wasn't locked anymore. Julian's dad was in the kitchen, stirring gravy. His movements were slow, careful, still recovering. He glanced up, eyes meeting mine. He didn't smile. But he nodded. Julian, he said. Eli. You want to set the table? It wasn't much. But to me, it was everything. Dinner was strange. Tense at first. His uncle avoided eye contact. His aunt overcompensated with questions about school and weather. But Julian's younger cousin, maybe 10 or 11, looked at us curiously and asked. Are you guys married? Everyone froze. Julian smiled. No, not yet. But we love each other. The kid nodded. Cool. That broke the ice. And something shifted. We laughed. We ate. His mom made her famous cranberry sauce. Julian squeezed my hand under the table. It was the first time I ever felt like I belonged in that house. Later that night, as we packed leftovers into Tupperware, his dad cleared his throat. Julian, he said. Can we talk? They stepped onto the porch. I stayed inside, wiping down counters I didn't need to wipe. After 10 minutes, Julian came back in, eyes glassy. "What happened?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then, he said he's trying. He said he doesn't understand everything yet, but he doesn't want to lose me. And he doesn't want to lose us. My knees nearly buckled. Did he say us? Julian nodded. He asked if I was happy. I told him I was. Happier than I'd ever been. And he said, "That's what matters." My eyes burned. Julian. He pulled me into his arms before I could finish. We stood there, surrounded by the scent of cinnamon and turkey, holding each other like we were still afraid we'd be taken apart. But no one came to tear us down. Christmas was quieter. We stayed in our apartment, built our own traditions. Matching pajamas. Hot cocoa spiked with too much rum. A tiny fake tree decorated with paper stars and inside jokes. Julian gave me a photo book, Polaroids of us over the past year. Notes in the margins. Ticket stubs taped beside silly captions. "I wanted you to remember this," he said. "Because this year almost broke us. And somehow, we made something beautiful out of it." My gift to him was simpler. A leather-bound journal. Inside the front cover, I wrote, "Here's to the truth we stopped hiding and the future we get to write together." He kissed me. Slow. Gentle. No fear. No one walked in. No one interrupted. No one had to be told. In January, Julian's dad called him. Just to chat. They talked about football. Grad school. And at the end, his dad said, "Tell Eli I said hi." When Julian hung up, we just stared at each other in awe. Did we just time travel? I joked. No, Julian said. We just lived long enough to see the world change. But not every day was easy. We still got stares when we held hands in public. Once, a man spat at our feet on the subway. Another time, a woman muttered something under her breath when we kissed in the park. But we never let go of each other's hands. Because we'd already survived the worst thing, the people we loved turning away. And we came out stronger. Stronger, not harder. One night, we attended a panel on LGBTQ youth homelessness. A boy named Marcus spoke. 16. Kicked out after coming out. Living in a shelter. Still smiling. Julian couldn't stop crying. On the way home, he said, "I want to do something. I have to." A week later, he signed up to volunteer. Within months, he was running a weekly support group. Listening. Sharing. Telling his story. They called him Coach J. He never corrected them. Years passed. I got into grad school. Julian got promoted to program director at the center. His parents came to our house for dinner every other month. His mom brought pie. His dad brought stories about old war movies. It wasn't perfect. But it was enough. One night, we stood on our balcony, watching the city lights blink like fireflies. "Do you remember the first time we kissed?" he asked. I remember thinking I'd never feel safe again. And now? I smiled. Now, I think we might just make it. Julian turned to me, eyes lit with something fierce and calm all at once. "I want to marry you, Eli." My breath hitched. "I want to wake up next to you every day. I want to argue about what show to binge. I want to raise a dog and maybe a kid or two. I want us, messy and real and loud and forever." I couldn't speak. Just nodded. 1,000 times. He didn't have a ring. I didn't need one. We kissed. And this time, there were no doors to burst open. No parents to catch us. No secrets to smother the truth. Just two men in love, beneath the stars, writing the next chapter of a story that started in fear and grew into something fierce. Epilogue 5 years later. The room was filled with laughter. String lights hung from the ceiling of the small barn we rented. White folding chairs. Flowers picked by our friends. Our vows read through tears. Julian's mom cried the whole ceremony. His dad stood beside her, proud, steady. My parents were there too, hugging them like old friends. Marcus, now 21, gave the toast. To Julian and Eli, he said, glass raised high. Proof that even when the world tells you to hide, love always finds its way into the light. We danced barefoot. Ate too much cake. Fell asleep in each other's arms with glitter in our hair and hope in our lungs. The truth never ruined us. It remade us. We just wanted a moment together. What we found instead was a lifetime. The end. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.